Alrighty, people. Whether you have won your matchup or you need something on Sunday night or Monday night football, inevitably it's likely that there's a player on your fantasy team that busted in week two, and you're probably a little bit panicked about that player. We're going to talk about some players that have busted in week one and week two. We're going to talk about players that maybe you should sell high, players that you should be panicked on, or maybe players that if you are panicked on, I'm going to give you a little bit of hope and try and help you see the glass half full rather than half empty. I appreciate y'all being here with me. Do me a massive favor. Go ahead and smash that like button. I got a like goal today of 150 likes. With your help, I'm confident we can get there. Be a friend. Smash that like button. So, afternoon games are done. We're about to head into Sunday Night Football, but let's talk about some names that you might be potentially panicking on in the chat. Actually, I want you to let me know in the chat who you're panicking on, but the first name we will talk about, and I imagine a lot of people want to discuss this name, the first name is Rachaad White. Let's talk about Rachaad White. I think we can very comfortably say that this was not the ideal week two that any Rachaad White owner was looking for. Okay, if you own Rachaad White, you saw him get 11 touches. 11 touches in a game where they were never out of it. It's not like they sat, starters at any point. 11 touches in a game where they were competitive. They were playing the Detroit Lions. And that is a little bit concerning. It's more concerning that we've only seen one target for Rachaad White as well. He finishes his day with 3.3 PPR points. Not exactly what we were looking for Rachaad White. Let's have a look at the usage here, though. Rachaad White, on the day, you can see he led running backs with snaps 34-17. Routes run was 17-7. He had 11 touches in total to Bucky Irving's 7. This is concerning to me because this usage continues to go slightly more and more towards Bucky Irving. In fact, Bucky played a higher percentage of the snaps this week than he did last week. You got Rachaad White now playing about 71% of the snaps. You got Bucky Irving, who in his second career game gets up to about 35, almost 36% of the snaps. And they were almost even in opportunities. Remember, guys, last year, why was Rachaad White a superstar? Rachaad White was a superstar because he caught passes, he was a PPR threat, and he dominated opportunities out of his backfield. There was nobody last year to take opportunities away from Rachaad White, right? Bucky Irving is a legit threat now. This isn't Sean Tucker. This isn't Chase Edmonds, the ghost of running backs that once may have mattered. This is real running back like Bucky Irving that is good, that the team drafted, that they expect a lot from. So this is concerning to me, knowing that this is a possibility. Guys, we've seen disappointing games for Rachaad White, but we haven't seen many of them be just 11 total touches. So what's my panic level on Rachaad White? I would say it's a solid 5 out of 10. We're not going to go full beans all the way to a 10 out of 10 panic, but I'm a solid 5 out of 10. And there is also, some injury concern with his groin that we have to consider moving forward. So if you have Rachaad White, I would not be opposed to potentially shopping him, seeing what you could get in return. We're not going to panic shop him, obviously, because that's not what we like to do here on Fantasyland Football. But absolutely, we're going to be open to seeing what sort of names. I mean, can you get an Isaiah Pacheco? Is it possible to go out and get, a Ken Walker who's dealing with an injury? How about a Ramondre Stevenson? Is it possible to go out and, try and get Travis Etienne if people are worried about Tank Bigsby or Josh Jacobs? Those are some names you can potentially look at. But, of course, we have another week. We'll have to wait and see if this trend continues. The next name we need to talk about here, I got to eat crow. I'll be honest. I had 8 my guys this year. I feel so good about a lot of those guys. I think my guys list is smashing. But there is one dark shadow on that list. There is one man that if I saw him in the streets, I'd pretend I didn't know him. I'd be like, oh, gosh, let's pretend we didn't. Oh, jeez, Louise. Let's pretend we didn't like that guy coming. But I'm not going to pretend. Yes, I liked it. I liked Zamir White coming into the season. The reason I liked him is because I thought he would get all the volume. I thought he would get all the goal line work. That is not the case. Zamir White is a 10 out of 10 panic for me. Okay, this is full beans panic. We're completely panicked. We're not going to drop him, but we are 100,000% panicked on Zamir White. All right, let's talk about the usage a little bit. Do me a favor, smash that like button. I know we're live right now. You guys are absolutely incredible. I appreciate the love, appreciate the support. Smash that like button. Let's get over 100. But let's look at the usage here for Zamir White in week 2. Here's what's the most frustrating for a name like Zamir White. It's really the goal line usage, which is what's frustrating me at this moment. Let's have a look. You can see here in this game versus the Ravens, which, by the way, I personally did not anticipate the Raiders being in that game, let alone winning that game. So that was absolutely crazy. But you can see here, Alexander Mattison gets a goal line touch. That ends up being the one goal line touch that was valuable. That ended up being a rushing touchdown. And of course, we also see Zamir White get one goal line touch, but it just wasn't enough. Now, here's the good news. Zamir actually played more than he had in week 1. So Zamir played 40 snaps. You can see Mattison only 14. How cool is that? Alexander Mattison just played 14 snaps, and they still gave him a goal line opportunity, and he still scored a touchdown, which absolutely sucks. In 2-minute drills, you can see we saw Zamir White on the field a little bit more. Third downs went primarily to Alexander Mattison, and then short yardage was just an absolute nightmare. We're now even seeing Amir Abdullah. I mean, what are we supposed to do with this backfield? It's a bad offense. It's a running back room that is full of competition, which is not what we were promised by this coaching staff. It is officially time to panic. We are smashing the panic button on Zamir White. I would argue that if you're in a very small league, 8-team leagues out there, you guys can probably drop Zamir White. You know, any 12-man, yes, we are holding on to Zamir for now. At least the usage, for the most part, was promising. But again, how in the world are you going to give Alexander Mattison a goal line touch? Oh, I thought Antonio Pierce was obsessed with this guy. I mean, that's what he was saying the entire offseason. Apparently, that's not true. Apparently, but I'll pull back. All right, Zamir White, it's full panic. Michael Pittman. Let's talk about Michael Pittman. Okay. Badaki and I, if you know, we were not very big Michael Pittman guys. In fact, on our Dynasty channel, we told you to sell Michael Pittman. One of our favorite people in the Dynasty space, you know, they are Colts lovers. No, they made a video about it. Our concern was Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson was always the reason we were selling Michael Pittman in Dynasty. He was always the reason we were worried about Jonathan Taylor. And yes, you can trust Shane Steichen for sure. But ultimately, guys, if your quarterback can't complete more than 50% of his passes, how the hell are you supposed to rely on him for fantasy football? An offensive coordinator, a head coach, a scheme can only do so much, okay? If you've got a guy who is on a shipping boat in the middle of the ocean, and every time he throws a rock, he hits the ocean 50% of the time, what are you supposed to do with that? Oh, but the good news is he can throw the ball 170 miles per hour. Great! Perfect! But can he throw a 3-yard slant accurately? Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he can. So we are a little bit concerned about one Michael Pittman Jr. We didn't draft any Michael Pittman Jr. And if you did, I'm sorry. I do hope it gets better for you. But if I was to give him a panic rating, it would be a 7 out of 10. And this is back-to-back weeks where they are spreading the ball in Indianapolis. Let's look at the usage this week. You can see Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce leads this team in snaps. Alec Pierce leads this team in routes run. Alec Pierce leads this team in targets. But you were told that Michael Pittman Jr. was a smash because look at what he did last year. Certainly, Anthony Richardson is an upgrade from Gardner Minshew. That's what they were telling us. He's not. He's not an upgrade. He's just not an upgrade, guys. Anthony Richardson comes into this game 17 completed passes out of 34. Terrible completion percentage, terrible accuracy. He throws 3 interceptions. I think this is now 4 interceptions in 2 games. Let me double check on that. It is not looking good for Anthony Richardson. 4 interceptions in 2 games. He plays Chicago next week, then Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, guys. Do we feel better about Chicago's defense? Sure. Yeah, let's pretend we do. Let's pretend that's a better matchup. Let's not think about Jalen Johnson at all. One of the best cover corners in the NFL. No, unfortunately, there are real reasons to be concerned about Michael Pittman. Okay? He's not, after 2 weeks, the dominant target share name on this team. It's a new quarterback. This quarterback prefers to spread the ball around. He prefers to throw the ball anywhere on the field at all and hopes that someone will catch it. So, unfortunately, if you own Michael Pittman, yes, he will have better games, but this is an unfortunate reality that you have to deal with Michael Pittman. The unfortunate reality being Anthony Richardson isn't good at playing football. This is worse than Justin Fields. I'm sorry. I know you guys don't want to hear this. This is worse than Justin Fields. And you're not even sure if he's the alpha? If Alec Pierce is going to get those... Josh Downs hasn't even joined the team yet, guys. Josh Downs, who had 900 yards as a rookie, hasn't even joined the team. And we're already worried about Michael Pittman's target share. We're already worried about his quarterback play. We're already worried about his yardage and how this wide receiver room is going to be distributed. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't want a victory lap too early. I ate crow on Zamir White just then. All right, I'm being fair. But I think Badaki and I absolutely nailed the Michael Pittman takes this offseason, at least so far. And those had a lot to do with our concern around Anthony Richardson. Here's what I'll say. If you can sell Michael Pittman for Jackson Smith and Jigba, I would do that. Probably not after this week, can you? If you could sell him for Xavier Worthy, I'd be open to it. If you could sell him for Jaden Reed, fantastic option right now if people are worried about Jordan Love. If you can sell him for Amari Cooper, I know it's been rough. We'll talk about him in a second. I'd rather have Amari Cooper. If you can sell him for Stephon Diggs. If you can't sell him for Chris Godwin anymore, can you? If you can sell him for T. Higgins. If you can sell him for Tank Dell before this next game. So, I'm sorry, Colts fans, but if you're not panicking on your quarterback play, you're just not even watching the games. You're being that guy who's, just unwilling to admit our quarterback is not very good. All right. I appreciate y'all for watching. Do me a favor, smash that like button. My like goal was 150. We're getting very close to that. With your help, I know we can get there. Next player we are a little bit concerned about is Amari Cooper. Okay? I am less concerned about Amari Cooper than I am Michael Pittman, but there is certainly still concern. Now, I gotta say it. I hate to say it, but you almost have to give... I don't want to say these words. Deshaun Watson didn't play bad today. I hate that I'm saying. Deshaun Watson played decent football. Ugh, disgusting. Why am I... Well, he didn't play that bad. He honestly didn't. He completed 22 out of 34 attempts. And quite frankly, some of this was actually Amari Cooper's fault. I want to show you guys this drop by Amari Cooper, which was going around Twitter. Y'all can probably see this on your screen. Let's have a little geese. This 2023 Amari Cooper makes this catch. Come on. I know it's a tough over-the-shoulder catch, but the Amari Cooper that we know and love, he makes that catch. That is back-to-back weeks where he has dropped a catch that we would expect a player of his caliber to make. Okay, yes, it's a difficult catch. It's over the shoulder. I mean, bro, you're looking like Quentin Johnson 2023. And he shouldn't be catching strays because he had one hell of a game. But this is a little bit on Amari Cooper. It was a little bit on Amari Cooper last week. It's a little bit on Amari Cooper this week. Let's hope that he can figure it out because he is still getting opportunities. He is still the number one on this team. They do still trust him more than they trust any other name. Let's just hope that he's not dust. That's what you have to hope if you have Amari Cooper, that he's truly not dust, that it's just a couple bad games and he's going to continue to, get the opportunities. If you look at this wide receiver room in week 2, Amari Cooper ran 63 out of 72 possible snaps. He ran the most routes. He was targeted 8 times. So all indications are that it's going to be okay. As long as Amari Cooper can play better, it's going to be okay. What's your conviction on Amari Cooper? My conviction is I still think he is a very good player in the NFL. So my conviction is I do think he's going to be okay. If I was to give a panic level, it would be 3 out of 10. And can I just give you guys a little bit more confidence moving forward with Amari Cooper? Why do I have this confidence in Amari Cooper? I'd like to show you guys, okay? And this really comes down to the schedule for the Cleveland Browns. I want to show you the upcoming schedule here because there is such an incredible opportunity to bounce back for Amari Cooper. All right, guys, in week 3, he faces the New York Giants. Oh, okay. I could see that working out. Then he faces the Las Vegas Raiders. Come on. Oh, wait. Then next, the Washington Commanders, who have given up more fantasy points to wide receivers than any other team. Oh, and then he gets the Philadelphia Eagles. Guys, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 smash plus positive matchups for our wide receiver in a row in Amari Cooper. So, of all the players we have talked about so far, I am worried the least about Amari Cooper. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Justin Jefferson. I think we should talk about this. Now, there's a question mark on the title of this video. Is it time to panic? So some of you are reading this, time to panic. No, there's a question mark there. Is it time to panic on these players? If anybody out there has Justin Jefferson, I'm only talking about him right now to tell you, you do not need to panic on Justin Jefferson. He's going to be okay. In fact, he came out after the game, and here is a direct quote from the boy himself, from Kevin Seifert of ESPN. Justin Jefferson via Lindsay says, I'm not seriously injured, so that's the main important thing. It's all about getting to the training room, making sure my body is right for next week, and I'll be ready to go next Sunday. So that verbiage is very important. Now, we have learned very quickly that we can't trust what players say, because if what players said was true, then Christian McCaffrey would be playing football. T. Higgins would have been playing football. So clearly we can't trust that, but it's good to know that from the horse's mouth, he himself is feeling okay. He feels like he's going to be all right. Regardless, the dude is Himothy. So you don't panic on Justin Jefferson. All right. So in case anybody was, I wanted to ease your feelings there. All right. Let's talk about Christian Kirk. All right. I feel like I'm pretty impartial, guys. I feel like I'm pretty fair. I told you Zamir White is not good, and I told you I liked him before the season. Can I take a victory lap? Is it okay? This does not look good for Christian Kirk in Jacksonville. It does not look good. We're talking about a slot receiver who relies on targets, who is not getting targets. We're talking about a receiver who has a first-round pick right next to him, a talented guy in Brian Thomas Jr., who is only going to get more and more opportunities. It is only week 2, and he has been out-targeted by Brian Thomas Jr. So this is a serious concern for me. If you own him, my panic level is a strong 7 or 8 out of 10. All right, let's have a look. Oh, that's a little preview. Let's have a look at the usage in Jacksonville. You can see Gabe Davis led the way with 7 targets. He also played 57 out of 60 snaps. You can see Kirk there definitely outsnapped Brian Thomas, but still, even when he was on the field more than Brian Thomas, he couldn't out-target him. And the reality is, if you're thinking about Brian Thomas and you're thinking about Christian Kirk and you're thinking about the way that these receivers are used, one receiver is given wide, these deep passing attempts down the field, valuable targets. The other is being used closer to the line of scrimmage and does not have the targets to sustain that. It's like Wan'Dale Robinson with less targets. How valuable can that really be? The reality is for Brian Thomas, guys, Brian Thomas needs 1 target to pay off his fantasy day. Christian Kirk needs 6 targets to pay off his fantasy day. And he is averaging at this point 3.5 targets a game. In a game with no Evan Ingram. A game with game script where they needed to throw the ball. No Evan Ingram this entire game. And Christian Kirk still walks away with 3 targets. I'm sorry, but if you loved Christian Kirk before the season, it's time to adjust. Just like I said with Zamir White, it's time to adjust. I was wrong on Zamir White. You got to say, at this point, it's not looking good for Christian Kirk. Let's talk about scary Terry McLaurin. Look, I think there are reasons to be optimistic with Terry McLaurin. Now, clearly there are some serious concerns, but this was better than last week. This was better than last week for Scary Terry. Last week, he only had 4 targets. This week, he doubles that to 8 targets. Now, unfortunately, the offense is so limited that, it's almost like what we saw for Zay Flowers last week. Guys, you remember last week when Zay Flowers was getting all these targets, but they were just strictly around the line of scrimmage? That's pretty much what was happening for Terry McLaurin in this game. I don't know if you guys got to watch this game, but the Cliff Kingsbury offense, it has not been a fun experiment so far. Let's just say that. The guy loves his wide receiver screens. I don't think I've ever seen a game with more wide receiver screens. It's shocking. I didn't know you could call that. I thought maybe there would be a rule against how many wide receiver screens you can possibly throw on any given day, but Cliff Kingsbury said, hold my beer. Hold my beer. Let me show you how many wide receiver screens I can draw up for my team. So, unfortunately, this offense is very limited right now. Jaden Daniels, while he looks good, while he's making good decisions, does not have the confidence to throw the ball down the field. His offensive coordinator is not drawing up the plays that are friendly for him to throw the ball down the field. So right now, Terry McLaurin is definitely someone that you could panic on. I would say the panic level is probably a 5 or 6 out of 10, because the good news is at least he doubles his targets from last week to this week. 4 targets in week 1, 8 targets in week 2. So that is, good to see. And of course, we have to keep in mind that there is potential for Jaden Daniels to get better over the course of a year. Guys, let's not forget that last year, CJ Stroud, he was good, but it took a little while for him to kind of get into his zone. But I'll say this, if you can trade Terry McLaurin, man, I'd trade Terry McLaurin for Jaden Reed. I'd trade Terry McLaurin for Brian Thomas, who came off a bad game. Xavier Worthy, who came off a bad game. I'd trade Terry McLaurin for Jamison Williams if I could get that done. Probably Ladd McConkey at this point, to be honest with you guys. JSN at this point. It's just there's not much reason for optimism with one Scary Terry. It's looking more scary than anything. All right, how about Deontay Johnson? It is really not looking good for any Carolina Panther. And yes, unfortunately, that includes Deontay Johnson. This is a shit show. It doesn't look good, folks. Come on home, John B. Could you imagine being a Panthers fan? Holy shit. The NFL draft is coming, Panthers fans. Don't worry. April will be here before you know it. All right? You'll be talking about whatever prospect out there is. Do we talk about Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. Who do we? April's coming. All right? Y'all better start watching college football or something else. This is not going to be good. Unfortunately, Bryce Young, the little engine that could, but he can't. He can't, can he? No. No. Bryce Young's a talented player. but he's just simply a limited physical specimen. He is a limited physical specimen. I'm sorry. I'm about 5'8", 5'9". I'm 5'8". I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you guys and say I'm 5'9". I'm 5'8". I can't imagine being behind an offensive line. I can't imagine trying to make decisions in a split second. It's only week 2, but I think if it's over for any team in the NFL, it's over for the Panthers. It is truly over. This experiment has not gone well. Unfortunately, if you are a Panthers fan, your expectation was, well, Dave Canales is coming into town. Look at what Dave Canales has done. And I've said this myself. Dave Canales fixed Geno Smith. Dave Canales fixed Baker Mayfield. Unfortunately, guys, the Panthers look worse. How do you look worse? I didn't know it would be possible. They look worse. I guess Jonathan Brooks is coming back soon, right? Maybe that's helpful. But unfortunately, you got to watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just lost your head coach, Dave Canales, and they're probably better than they were last year. That doesn't feel good. Your coach was an offensive coordinator last year, and that team is probably better now. Deontay Johnson. This is not Adam Thielen 2.0. No, this is not. This is awful. This is 15 out of 10 panic. If you're in a 8-team league, you can drop him. If you're in a 10-team league, you might be able to drop him. 12 teams, probably still hold on. Let's see if they figure it out. But it certainly doesn't look good. All right, let's talk about Sam Laporta here. I imagine a lot of people are going to be panicking about Sam Laporta. And look, it's understandable. Sam Laporta, through 2 games, has no good fantasy output to talk about. In week 1, we can have a look here together. In week 1, he puts up 4 catches on 5 targets. In week 2, he had 2 catches on 3 targets. And what's more concerning to me is, I am super excited about the Jameson Williams breakout, but you have to acknowledge that there are only so many targets to go around in an offense. And we just watched a game where the Lions were down the entire time, okay? And Sam Laporta ends up with 2 targets. How is that even possible? How is it even possible that the best rookie tight end we've ever seen ended up with 2 targets? But we're seeing Amon-Ra with 18. We're seeing Jameson Williams with 11. We're seeing Tim Patrick with 4. Khalif Raymond with 4. We had to get Tom Kennedy a target. You know what? Look, when you got Tom Kennedy on your team, you got to force him target, don't you? I don't understand it, but I'd like to calm you, okay? There will be better days ahead for Sam Laporta, I promise you. Now, here's what we know for sure. The emergence of Jameson Williams does mean Laporta is not an automatic matchup winner every week. He's just not, okay? There will be weeks where Sam Laporta wins you your matchup. There will be weeks where he is average. To me, at this point, I would rather have Trey McBride. There are less names to think about there in that offense. I'm not even sure if I'd rather have Sam Laporta or Dalton Kincaid. At least Dalton Kincaid, he was a critical part of this offense in that first drive before he went down with that little head injury. He came back, I know. Yeah. We didn't draft any Sam Laporta this year. I don't know what it feels like to own him, but it can't feel good. Here's what I'll say. He will bounce back. I promise you. I promise you. Okay, Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram suffered a hamstring injury during warm-ups. Bro, can you just relax? It's a warm-up. Did you not stretch enough? What the hell happened, Evan Ingram? In a game where they desperately needed you. Guys, Evan Ingram was probably about to smash in this game. Why do I feel so confident in saying that? I feel confident in saying that because Brenton Strange had 7 targets. 7 targets for Brenton Strange. We probably would have had a great week from Evan Ingram. But here's what I'll say. If you pull your hamstring and then you can't play, odds are you might be out for multiple weeks. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there is a good possibility that Evan Ingram is not going to play next week. Again, I don't want to be that guy. I'm sorry. I got to be that guy. Here's what I'll say. If you have Evan Ingram, I would be picking up names like Hunter Henry off the waiver wire, Mike Gesicki off the waiver wire, Luke Schoonmaker, Zach Ertz. Shoot, Brenton Strange? Pick up, the backup? Because this definitely looks like it could be a multi-week absence. It's just very rare that someone misses a game with a hamstring and then they're just back the next week. The only thing that heals a hamstring is time, guys. The only thing that heals a hamstring is time. And I don't think he's going to have the time before next week's matchup. Hey, I appreciate y'all watching. Do me a massive favor. Smash that like button on today's stream. We're already over 200. There's 1,400 of you watching, which is absolutely bonkers. I appreciate y'all. I will do a Q&A here in a second. Super chats will get answered straight away. Otherwise, I'll go in order. But I appreciate everybody here in the chat with us. Next person we should talk about quickly is Isaiah Likely. This will be the last name we talk about today. Isaiah Likely was number 1 on our waiver wire pickup. However, we did publicly say, be careful splashing the cash on this name. If you go back and watch the waiver wire video, which we made last week, we said, look, yes, he's the number 1 pickup, but be careful going too hard on Isaiah Likely. Why did we say that? We said that because we still believed Mark Andrews would be an important part of this offense. We still thought he would be a centerpiece. There were a lot of reasons to point to why Mark Andrews was not as involved in week 1. Kansas City just completely took him away. And it was clear it was a part of their game plan to completely take him away. Now, we posted this poll after last week. Okay? And we said, who scores most points rest of season? And out of 11,000 people, 63% of them said Isaiah Likely. This is why I was very intentional in the waiver wire video to encourage you guys, please do not go too hard on Fab. We would have rather picked up a name like Colby Parkinson. We would have rather spent 5% of our Fab on Colby Parkinson than 40% of our Fab on Isaiah Likely. Now here's the reality. We know what Isaiah Likely is capable of. He is capable of those big games. So it's certainly possible that he can do it again, okay? But if you have him at this point, you have to hold him. And every week you have to decide based off the matchup if he is a good or bad start. So unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I had to bring some bad news today. And like I said, I ate some crow myself, okay? Now, the last thing we do need to discuss, guys, is some injuries that happened before I could personally add them to the video. So let's talk about some names that we definitely need to talk about that, we didn't have graphics for. For example, Cooper Kupp, who left the game with an ankle injury. He didn't come back, and he also had a boot on his foot leaving the locker room. This is no bueno. This is no bueno, all right? We don't want to see Cooper Kupp injured like this. I mean, he looked like an absolute league winner. I don't know what to tell you, though. We got to wait. We got to find out some more information. Isaiah Pacheco left the game with an injury. I hope we get more information on that. But those are really the main pieces of information that you need to know. Definitely things that you need to monitor. But let's go ahead and turn this into a Q&A. All right. I'll answer some questions here. Of course, super chats will get answered straight away. Otherwise, I'm going to go in order for these questions. I appreciate you guys big time. And I do see a super chat. The first one is from Christian Ferrer. I appreciate you, Christian. He says, should I drop Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp for Godwin and Nico Collins? I'm assuming you mean trade, because we're not dropping any of these names. But I'm assuming the question is, should I trade Ja'Marr Chase and Cooper Kupp for Godwin and Nico Collins? Let's ask the chat. Let's ask the chat on this one. Guys, what do you think? Should Christian do this trade where he gets Godwin and Nico Collins? If I knew Cooper Kupp was back in 1 or 2 weeks, I would absolutely keep the Cooper Kupp side of this deal. However, I don't know that information. If Cooper Kupp is to go on IR, for example, then yes, you will have wanted to have made this deal. So hopefully you can leave it in your inbox and, and kind of like wait on news to come out and then hit accept if you find out that it is a serious injury for Cooper Kupp. So yeah, that will be my answer. Hey, I appreciate y'all for being here with me. Let's see if we can get to 300 likes. We're so close. If everybody hits the like button right now, who knows what we are capable of. I am answering questions from top to bottom, but super chats do skip the queue. The next super chat is from Just Chrome. I appreciate the donation, my man. He says, sell high on Neighbors in Dynasty. Maybe try to get Garrett Wilson. Any suggestions? Also, traded Parkinson. Okay, let's start with that first question. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You don't sell high on Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors, if you guys were with us on the Dynasty channel, is a wide receiver that talent-wise, as a prospect, I personally had in the same exact tier as Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, we come out in a great matchup for Malik Neighbors, and he saw, I think, 60% of the targets. He had 18 targets. I believe I saw a tweet earlier where someone said that Malik Neighbors is getting about 60% of the target share in New York right now. All you need to do is wait on better quarterback play. But no, I would be keeping Malik Neighbors at this point. Definitely not looking to sell high on him. He says also traded Parkinson for Ferg pre-game. Love that. If you were somehow able to get Jake Ferguson for Colby Parkinson in Dynasty, you absolutely robbed somebody. And yeah, you robbed them. Next question, next super chat's from Jack. He says, thoughts on Brandon Ayuk and Ja'Marr Chase? Yeah, Brandon Ayuk was a weird game. I'm just going to chalk up Ayuk's game to, I guess game fitness not being completely 100% ready yet. It's going to take a couple weeks for him to, really get back into the I guess the role and into the swing of things. But this team literally just paid him a huge bag. I am not worried about Brandon Ayuk. We know based off of multiple years of evidence that he is one of the better route runners in the NFL. I think he's going to figure it out. And as far as Ja'Marr Chase goes, look, not a good game at all. But once they get T. Higgins back, it's going to be much, much easier for them to, target Ja'Marr Chase. Kansas City is notoriously so good at removing your best player from the game plan. That's what they did again. And, let me just remind you guys that the Bengals will be a smash start next week. Joe Burrow, Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins if he plays, Zach Moss, everybody on the Bengals will be a smash play. Why? Because they play the Washington Commanders. They have the best matchup in fantasy football next week. So I would not panic on either of those names. Another super chat here from K3. Appreciate you, man. He says, how about Marvin Harrison Jr.? Also, what are your thoughts on Amon-Ra St. Brown? Yes, so last week we said, hey guys, look, don't panic on Marvin Harrison Jr. It's going to be okay. It was his first game. There was a lot of wind in Buffalo. And yeah, I mean, clearly everyone saw what Marvin Harrison Jr. is capable of here in week 2. As far as Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I wouldn't be shocked if he is limited the entire week, if he doesn't practice the entire week. So if you have Amon-Ra, all I'm saying is don't be surprised if he's like a potential out next week. Let's see how he practices, though. All right. The next super chat here is from Justified Edits. Appreciate you. Thanks for the donation. He says, I was lucky and got Kittle and Kelsey been selling, so who do I start next week? Yeah, this is all going to be about matchup. So next week we got Kelsey who faces the Atlanta Falcons, and we've got Kittle who faces the Rams. I'm probably going to go Kittle in that matchup. Divisional game. And Kittle's been really, really good for the last couple weeks. So I think you're going to have to ride the hot hand with these tight ends. But yeah, Kelsey, I talked about this last week. Kelce is definitely concerning to me. And the reason I said that is because I feel like Rashee Rice is kind of taking his role, but he just does it better than Kelce does at this point of his career. You know? So yeah. All right. Another super chat here from I'm Nate. He says, thoughts on Tajay? Yeah, Tajay left the game with an injury, didn't he? Yeah, so Tajay hurt his ankle. I'll tell you what, if you own Tony Pollard, you should feel pretty good right now because Tajay is just not eating into that workload, and he is going to be out for a little while with an ankle injury. So, yeah, I mean, he's someone that you stash, but certainly not someone that you can sell or, start at any point. As far as buy low running backs, I haven't really had a chance to wrap my mind around that at this point. To be honest, if anyone is not aware of what Brian Robinson is doing in Washington, he's a great buy low. If anyone is unaware of the Tajay Spears injury and you can get Tony Pollard on the low, him. I think everyone knows about J.K. Dobbins at this point. Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to throw out Blake Corum again. Like, if you can just get him for fab, I would pick up Blake Corum. All right. Do we have another super chat here? We do, and it is from Emmanuel. He says, I give Jonathan Taylor and likely I get McBride and James Cook. Yeah, take McBride and James Cook by a heartbeat or in a heartbeat. Take McBride and James Cook and run with it. McBride is arguably the only tight end who really hasn't completely disappointed you entirely. He had 9 targets in week 1, and in week 2, in a positive game script the entire time, he still has 6 catches on 6 targets, got into the end zone. Yeah, McBride is looking like the tight end 1 in fantasy football right now. I mean, let me ask the chat. If you could own any tight end for the rest of the season, which tight end is that? To me, it's Trey McBride. If I could own any tight end rest of the year, for me, it would be Trey McBride. And I don't think that's an overreaction. All right. We got another super chat here from Proofy. Appreciate you, Proofy. He says, move JSN for a mid to early 25 first, or is that too low if you have a deep wide receiver core? I don't know, dude. I mean, guys, if you drafted JSN in Dynasty, isn't this exactly what we've been waiting for? You know what I mean? Isn't this exactly what we've been waiting to see? Why sell? I don't know. I mean, the reason you would sell is if you don't believe he's going to be that guy. But this was exactly what I have been waiting for, praying on, believing in for, what, 20 months now? He gets 16 targets. Catches 12 of them, looks dynamic, looks incredible. I mean, this is exactly what we wanted from Jackson Smith-Njigba all along. 16 targets. You've got DK Metcalf, who ends up with 14, so they were both heavily targeted. I would love to see the snap counts from that game, actually. Let's see if they've got that up. So you can see here that the routes were all pretty evenly distributed. But finally, we're seeing JSN and DK Metcalf with some consolidation of targets. That's exactly what we've been wanting to see. So, look, I don't know. I mean, if you own JSN, why not ride this out and see what this could turn into? But if I knew I was getting like a top 3 pick in 2025, yeah, I would make the move. If I knew I could get that, I would make the move. We got a super chat here from Badaki. Badaki says, QJ is rising from the ashes. Talk it up. Yes, QJ will be he will absolutely be a waiver wire pickup that we'll talk about. The great news for Quentin Johnston is they're finally using him in a way that makes sense. They're really setting him up for after the catch opportunities, which is what he was so good at TCU. He's never been this one-on-one ball winner, but it's good to see him doing his thing. All right, we got another super chat here from John. John Hargraves, appreciate you, man. He says, what do I do with Najee Harris? Should I hold or trade? Yeah, I mean, we said this before the week. Unless Najee Harris gets into the end zone, he's not a good play for fantasy football. And what do you know? He touches the ball 19 times this week. And still not a good play for fantasy football. I mean, you can make an argument that if Justin Fields is going to continue to start, and why wouldn't Justin Fields continue to start? He's won both games so far. He's looked good doing it. I mean, I feel like this is going to be Justin Fields' job moving forward. And when you got a guy in Justin Fields, just like we talked about with Anthony Richardson, but to a lesser degree, when you got a guy like Justin Fields who at any point he's in trouble can take off with the ball and rush it, most of the time that running back in that backfield is not going to get an opportunity for many dump-offs. So what can you really sell Najee Harris for? You certainly can't sell him high. He hasn't had a single game over 10 PPR fantasy points. So I feel like your only option is to hold. I don't think you can get anything for Najee Harris. Can you get Jonathan Brooks? Maybe. Maybe you could do that. I just don't know what you can get, man. I really don't know what you can get. Appreciate the super chat, though. We got another super chat here from Clarity. Hold or sell high on Dobbins. Dobbins is kind of like found money right now. You know, I don't know why you would sell. We're seeing him get more and more opportunities, which is what we want. He's being efficient with those opportunities. I mean, you can make an argument that at this point in the season, Dobbins is the most efficient, most explosive running back in the NFL. It's insane to say that. And big shout out to Corey from Fantasy Stock Exchange, because this was his favorite sleeper. And right now, J.K. Dobbins is going bananas in the NFL. In week 1, he averaged over 13 yards per carry. In week 2, he averaged over 7 yards per carry. Now, here's the difficult part. You've got two very difficult matchups coming up versus Pittsburgh and Kansas City. So if you can sell high, I'm not opposed. But what does that sell high? I mean, are you telling me you're getting into Jonathan Taylor range? Alvin Kamara? Probably can't, not after this game. Can you turn him into Kyron? Can you turn him into Travis Etienne? Can you turn him into Josh Jacobs or James Cook or, you know, Ramondre Stevenson if you're in PPR? Then maybe we can look at that. But at this point, it feels like he's a strong hold unless you can get one of those names, and I don't think you can. All right, another super chat here from Austin S. She says, got Rashad, White, Eckler, and Swift. Am I cooked? No, you're not cooked. You're not cooked. I mean, honestly, Austin Eckler actually looks really good. Austin Eckler looks so efficient. He looks so dynamic, so explosive. But the issue is, Brian Robinson just looks better. And Brian Robinson is going to be that dude for this team. But with DeAndre Swift, what I would hope for if I was you is a good game tonight and then potentially look to sell him high. Because I don't believe in DeAndre Swift for the rest of the season. Derrick Henry, it's full PPR. Yeah, I mean, I would prefer Derrick Henry, but like I said, shop around. If the consensus is around the league that Derrick Henry is not as valuable as J.K. Dobbins, then get a 2-for-2 deal going where you're improving somewhere else. We got a super chat here from Thomas. I don't see any question from Thomas. I don't see any question from Thomas, unfortunately. We got a super chat here as well from Mole Rat, who says, who to target for Deontay if I'm selling him? Fab? $5 Fab? I mean, guys, if you're trying to sell a player who nobody wants, like, I'm not trying to be rude, but genuinely, who nobody wants Deontay Johnson. If he was on the waivers, some people would be interested. Some people wouldn't. I mean, you can't sell Deontay Johnson. Like, can you sell him for Keon Coleman? Maybe that's a name you could target. Jordan Addison. Christian Watson. Probably can't get Khalil Shakir. Can you sell him for Jalen Polk? So, yeah. Hopefully that is helpful. But isn't there NFL football on right now? Oh, yeah. NFL football is starting right now. I appreciate you guys. All right, there is one more super chat. We're going to leave as soon as the super chats are done here. But do me a favor, smash that like button. Mr. Pee Wee Pone says, in my 12-team Dynasty League, should I trade Etienne and Likely for Jordan Mason and JSN? In my 12-team Dynasty League, should I trade Etienne and Likely for Jordan Mason and JSN? I think that's pretty fair. I prefer JSN over any of those names in Dynasty. I'm stacked on wide receivers, but also have McBride. Yeah, I'm honestly fine with that. I'll take the JSN side of that. And I would be willing to trade Jordan Mason, by the way, because I've seen some people get first-round picks for him. So try and shop him, see if you can get a first-round pick for him. But yeah, I would take that deal. All right, guys, that's it for today. Do me a favor, smash that like button as the stream ends. And the only other thing I was going to say is if you want help with your team, we do team reviews on the site. So I'll paste that link in the chat. It'll be in the pinned comment as well. You can ask any start, sit, trade question with that link. You can get a team review. Go check that out. I appreciate you for watching. All love. Good luck in Sunday Night Football.